Welcome back to another episode of CityLife Uncensored here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in our hidden studios at 1812 East Carson Street. Really excited. Got a friend of mine, Kathryn King, here, who runs a big part of my life and where I've been over the last 50 days on my journey to really get healthy. It's a big piece of the real estate community. So extremely excited to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was honored to be able to chat with you in a different environment. But yeah, Casey and the team work out at F45 trying to get Brian here. But
yeah,
as long as he's working out, that's all I care about. So
yeah, F45 studio owner over in the Strip District, runs a hell of a shop and program over there. We at CityLife have a ton of members, but yeah, to your point, Mr. Bry over there does his own personal training.
I gave her my excuse this morning.
Yeah. Which is what?
I get it.
The excuse was I got to get home for the kids. I think you guys go right back to the go right to work from there.
Yeah, we have a little. Some of the boys have a little shower party every day at the office afterwards.
I miss the shower parties.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, you gotta just try one.
Sometimes I do go home though.
Do you?
Yeah, sometimes I drive. It's just it's a long
commute.
It's a long commute there and back. Like if I got to take care of my son or something in the morning, I drive back. But I digress. Anyways, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as we do every episode, we like to kind of to take it back, right? To dive into the journey of how you've gotten to where you're at, right? Obviously running a really successful gym. I believe F45 is one of the largest brands from a gym perspective in the world, right? Started in Australia.
One of the fastest growing.
Fastest growing right now. So they're franchising all over the world, really. And you happen to run an incredibly successful one right in the heart of Pittsburgh, where there's been over, I talk real estate for a second, $1 billion in investment down in the Strip District, and you happen to have one of the best gyms there. So it's quite exciting. But anyways, why don't you start it off for us and tell us the background, right? Start wherever you want and kind of tell us how you got to where you're at today.
All right. Well, since this is my first podcast or interview, I got to show parents. And I think it did honestly start. My dad was an entrepreneur. He started his own business when I was growing up. And
which was what?
So he's an audio video contractor. It's called Custom Audio Works out of Carnegie. He does all the Permani brothers, their TVs, stereos. He does offices, security equipment. He's really done well for himself.
So you still do that?
Yep, still does it. One of the big
We're gonna
players
have to
in the
talk
space.
offline.
Down the podcast.
All this stuff. Like,
just took a lot of trying to figure out, and we still don't have it done right.
Yeah, so he does jobs up in State College. I went to Penn State, so I'm proud of that. I could always go to the bars, because they have big TVs.
Unfortunately, everyone in the world knows every single Penn State grad.
Yeah. So I don't have a Penn State themed bathroom or anything like that.
We are.
Yeah. But so my dad started that. He started that like in 1992. So I was super young. With that, he left a sales job, worked at a stereo shop, and started this business. So I kind of saw the grind. I guess I just didn't realize it. I thought it was normal. My mom was working odd jobs, kind of retail, substitute teaching, a little bit of everything, to take care of us and help.
Where'd you grow up?
South Hills.
Okay.
So we grew up in Scott Township. Later moved to South Fayette, and that's where I went to high school. But so I think from a young age and then also I feel like this has been a theme of entrepreneurs on your podcast, but I would do like paintings when I was little and like invite my family over for art shows and try to sell them. I'd bedazzle clothes in like high school and try to sell them to my friends. I sold jewelry.
Wait, were you the one that, were you the inventor of the putting all the things on the back
like on the pockets? Yeah. Like if there was something to sell or just to do, I was doing it. And I think that's like with my nature of I love to be busy. I love to be doing things. Like I can't really sit still for too long. So that's kind of like growing up. And then I was always smart, but I was never motivated to like be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an accountant. Like,
it's funny. I love that you just said that, because a lot of people won't come on here and say I was always smart.
Well,
but it's cool. Like I like it's the truth.
Yeah, confident. Like I always did well in school. Like, but I didn't want to go to college. I was like, why would I do that? Like I wanted to be a hairstylist, or I wanted to like, I don't know, be a stay-at-home mom. Like I was smart, but I just wasn't like career driven, I guess. So I ended up going to college, and you guys, I think this is always funny, but so some people say go to college, like just pick a major that you love, and the rest will follow. Some people are like, go to college to be a doctor, or like get your get your law degree because you'll have a job title.
Mm-hmm.
Or like go get an accounting degree. You'll have a job
Yep.
title. So I bounced back and forth with that a lot, like in the regrets of not going to college for something that I would have a job title right out of, because I think I just struggled a little bit in college, not knowing what I wanted to do. And
So did you struggle because you didn't know what you wanted to do, or did you struggle because you were partying too much?
I was only a partier on the weekends.
Okay.
So I found fitness kind of in college. I took a class, like a fitness class that taught you how to be a fitness instructor. And that's kind of how I
Oh,
got
wow,
into
okay.
things. And it was a really select group on campus, and we taught all the students. So I'd had classes of like 100 people teaching them 10-minute abs. So it was a really
Wow.
cool experience.
Well,
And
what
again,
majored you? I derailed you, and I
okay,
apologize.
so I
So what
went
was
in
the major?
undecided.
Okay.
Undecided, right? I'll figure it out
Yep.
when I get there. So after taking that exercise science class, like as a gym class, I was like, okay, maybe I'll do kinesiology. So I went into
What?
kinesiology.
Which
I've
is?
seen the word before. I could never pronounce
You're
it.
So
talking
that's-
to a couple dummies here. You're gonna have
But
to.
this is
I've never
funny
heard it
because like it's so
actually
it's
spelled.
so general. It's like the study of human movement.
Okay.
Okay, so it
Okay.
wasn't like biology. It was literally the study of human movement. So I did take like biomechanics and like organic chem and like some crazy classes. But with that said, I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer. So I was like, okay, I'll go this route. Like I like working with people. I really like exercise. That's a career, right? So then I get assigned to the
Did you play
swim
sports
team.
in high school?
I did. I played volleyball.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I started lifting a little bit in volleyball and, getting that team feel. But going to Penn State again, D1, right?
Yeah.
Everything. So I couldn't
Their
play
volleyball
anything.
program's like one of the best in the
Yeah,
country,
they were the
right?
best. So
Yeah.
like I couldn't play anything. But the fitness instructor crew, there was like 30 of us that kind of made it feel like that team environment, or that I was part of something, right? Like I didn't
Mhm.
join a sorority, I didn't do any of that stuff. But I did find that fitness crew. And I think that was, the team aspect that I liked. So, was doing that athletic training. I got assigned to the swim team as like the team to work with and shadow the athletic trainer. And so I was up at 5 a.m. for practices before class. I had to go back to practices at 5 p.m. after class.
Were you
And
getting paid?
No. And after a few months of that, I was like, okay, I do not want to be an athletic trainer anymore. Like, this sucks. I did some research on like what the salary would be, and I'm like, this just is not worth my time. Like
Yep.
waking up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, just dealing with jag-off athletes.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, shoot, what am I going to do now? So I just graduated with a general kinesiology. Like, you either have to go on to PT school. I hated school. Why would I want to go on to school, right? So I got a job at Dick's Sporting Goods headquarters,
Nice.
teaching spin. All right, 3 days a week. Occasionally, I'd sit at the desk, right? So I got a job at Manny Brothers because my dad did the TVs. So I'm waitressing. Like, I'm doing all the odd jobs right out of college. And I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to ever move out on my own. I went back to my parents.
How do I grow up, right?
Yeah, like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't just waitress. I can't just teach classes. Like, I didn't have a career path. So at Dick's, I kind of had this revelation. I started talking to some of my clients there, and, I would like apply, and they're like, well, you don't have a business degree. You can't do anything here. And I'm like, okay, well, I better go get a business degree then.
Okay.
So I actually, literally a year after I graduated college, here I am back at school. So I applied for a graduate assistantship at Duquesne in sports marketing. I'm like, okay, maybe like I like sports, I like fitness. Like, let's go this route. So they paid for my MBA, which was an awesome deal. So I did it full time for 2 years.
Who paid for your MBA?
Duquesne. Yeah. I gave them like office hours. I was basically like an assistant to a lot of the professors, doing research, helping with events, and would do classes at night. So in the day I would work there, at night I do classes. On the weekends I worked at Macy's selling women's shoes. Told you about that.
Yeah.
So that's how I was making money. Otherwise I wasn't getting paid to do this Duquesne job, but they were paying for my
Does
internship.
selling shoes at Macy's give you a commission?
Yeah.
I
I
thought
was
so.
great. Yeah. Like, I made a lot of money selling shoes on Saturdays and Sundays,
I'd be curious
but
more
they
about
chase
that
you
model,
down,
but
right?
yeah.
They chase you down in the shoe
I
department.
was always curious of how actual commissions worked at the stores, because I
Yeah.
know they pay you really.
Yeah,
Days,
I
I
know the
figured-
suit guy Macy's they make commissions. So I'm like, I bet you all Macy's somehow figures out a way to do commissions.
Yeah, so they do commission. So it was like a really good gig, obviously no health benefits or anything, but there was people working there full time, selling the shoes and doing pretty well for themselves. But that was basically how I paid for like weekends and travel. I was living at home, so my parents didn't kick me out or anything. But then
Shout out to your
yeah,
parents.
shout out. I
Yeah.
mean, they were great. So
Are they going to
okay,
listen to this podcast?
I think so. They didn't know I was coming. I didn't want to tell anybody I was coming on. So I'm like, we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes in quiet.
Yeah, like before I like
Try push it
broadcast.
out.
We're going to
this
go ahead
in
and throw a couple
advertisements.
$1,000 in advertisements behind this so
Yeah,
everybody listens.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. So I forget where I was at, but once I got
So you're
my
selling shoes at
yeah,
Macy's, going to school,
got my MBA.
Duquesne.
Yep.
working
Yep.
for them there because they're paying for your
Yep.
master's
And
in
I'm like,
sports
okay,
marketing.
cool. Like I
Yep.
got my MBA in business. I can do anything now, right? Like that's what the guys told me.
Yep.
So I got an internship at Mylan Pharmaceuticals, actually great company. They're since have been bought, and working as like a healthcare marketing intern for the EpiPen team. I had no idea what that meant. I just applied and I got it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was
You needed to get a real job, right?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
okay.
So I'm like, okay, like this will get my foot in the door. So what the job actually was like the sales reps that sold the EpiPen. I was on the sales rep team that sold to healthcare. So there's like healthcare marketing, consumer marketing, and then like another avenue. So I was doing like the healthcare marketing, so marketing to doctors.
Yep.
Instead of the consumer side. So I did that internship. They offered me a full-time gig there, but I was ready to move and do something different. I had some things in my personal life that I was like, I just want to get out of here. So I moved. I applied for a job in Washington, D.C. For a
Wow.
company called the Advisory Board Company, and they did healthcare, healthcare something. Again, I had no idea like what I was doing. I just was taking jobs.
Living. I
And
love
in
it.
the health, and I was like, I like health and fitness, so I just followed healthcare path.
Yeah.
So you moved to Washington, D.C.
So I moved to Washington, D.C. in 2015, like after the internship and
Got it.
after I graduated. So there I'm working, same thing, like 9 to 5, doing the corporate gig, like working my way up there. And I was always teaching spin or some sort of exercise on the side. So that's how I like made friends there. That's how I made some extra money.
So you would find a local
And that's how I
gym.
found F45,
Okay.
actually. So this is how it kind of all ties together. But yes, I'd find like local gyms, and I'd either teach spin before work hours or after work hours.
Yep.
And I moved to DC. I'm like embarrassed to say this, but on a salary of $30,000. And DC is very expensive.
Sure is.
So I lived with my aunt for a little bit, all right, until I got promoted to the next level, made a little bit extra more money, and was able to get an apartment, move out. And again, just kind of stayed there, climbing the ladder,
So are
teaching.
you in like the heart of DC then?
Yeah, well, started in
Good.
Arlington, but then I moved to Columbia Heights.
Yeah, you can't live on
Which-
$30,000 a
No,
year
you,
in DC.
no, you can't. And that's why I lived in a basement. I said I lived in
Yeah.
Harry Potter's closet. My first 6 months in DC, like I had to take the bus everywhere. But once
bringing friends and bringing the boyfriend down to
Right,
the
yeah, into
basement
the
of your aunt's
basement.
house.
Yeah, so once I moved out of there, into DC proper, I was like, okay, I made it, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm living
my
now.
salary's not
Yeah,
that much
my
more.
salary's
Yeah.
50,000. I'm
Yeah,
living.
but
I'm still in
making-
poverty.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm making this extra money. Like, I didn't go out or like do crazy stuff that costs a lot of money. And I had some savings. I nannied, babysat, like just.
I remember those
small
days when it
hustles.
was all right. We're gonna have to pregame and basically get blacked out
Oh
before
yeah,
we go to
exactly.
the
Like
park
you
because
buy
you
one
couldn't
drink
buy a
at the
drink.
bar,
Yeah.
right? Because you just drink all at home, so you don't have to spend $10 on a drink.
Yeah, buy $9 half gallons of Jack Link's
Yeah.
vodka.
Yeah.
The
So,
days.
but I did make my way up, through the rankings in the 3 years that I was in DC, and I, ended up finding F45. They just had opened the first location in DC. So this was like 2017, 2018. And I knew a guy, he worked at the gym that I was working at, and he was the one that was going to run this. So he's like, why don't you come like work out, do the free trial or whatever? I was like, okay, cool. Did the free trial. I loved it. I could not afford to join it. So I was like, are you hiring? Like, I'll coach here. Like, I'll do whatever you need. Like, but I can't afford to join this gym. And he was like, okay, like you can be an assistant. So you know how in F45, you might not know this, but there's 2 coaches. One is the voiceover or kind of talks what's going to happen that day.
Okay.
The second demos the exercises. They don't really speak during the demo.
Gotcha.
But then they both have the same role. Okay, so then they're both coaching equally. But in DC, the way that they run it was like there was that head coach who explained everything, and there was the assistant who demoed. But then the assistant kind of just hung out. They didn't take on that role of the equal parts,
Yep.
if that makes sense. So I was the assistant. So I would demo everything, and then I'd kind of just like hang out, help a little bit, but more so just make sure everyone knew where they were going. So that's actually how I started, and I absolutely loved it.
So they gave you a membership if you coach.
Yes. Yep. So I assisted there, got the membership. So I loved that. I was doing that. 5 a.m. I'd walk a mile and a half to work to the gym at 5 a.m. And then I'd go back after work and do the 5 p.m. class. Walking. I didn't have a car in DC, and there's
Yeah.
buses and stuff, but I love to just walk everywhere. So I did. So I got like no sleep for probably a year. But
And a lot of exercise.
but a lot of
Yeah.
exercise. Like I was loving F45. I made all my friends through it. And then some other personal reasons brought me back to Pittsburgh. Right. So I'm living in Pittsburgh. I'm
So
still working.
this is 18 because
2018.
yeah.
2018, I come back to Pittsburgh. So I was in DC about 3 years. I'm working the same job, but just fully remote. They let me go remote.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying out gyms around the area, like still big into health and fitness. Where do I coach? I got a job teaching spin in the North Side. And I was like, okay, maybe I can like open a spin studio someday, or like maybe I can do this, or like I hate corporate
So
America.
is this the first itch of wanting to do it on your own?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I kind of thought about it a little bit, and I was like, what could I do? Like, and then I would try these different gyms. Like spin I loved, but it's a lot of work programming the class, making the playlist for every time. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that like every day. Like my once a week
Well,
class
let
that I
me
taught.
just take a
Yeah,
quick
go
step
ahead,
back
go
for
ahead.
you, right? Because
Yeah.
I totally agree.
I
with
could
you, right?
ramble.
And thinking through that a little bit, right? Thinking about the spin, which it sounds
Yeah.
like you pretty much were a spin instructor for
Pretty
many
much the whole
years,
time,
and then all of
yeah.
a sudden you made this transition at 45.
Yes.
Being in that lifestyle that you were in for that period of long, and me not necessarily being as much, I know the big differences between the two.
Yeah.
Like give me a little bit more mentally. Like you said, oh, I loved F45. I became your assistant, but like, I mean, to your point of the spin, to that, like people love spin,
Mhm.
right? Spin's huge. F45 is a little bit different. Like mentally for that transition, what was that like?
Yeah. And I'm not going to knock spin because I love it and I always have done it. But for me, like it wasn't something I could do every day. I did it every day, but I'm like, I don't know if I could do this like every day as I get older. Um, Taking class, but also even just coaching it again, it's a lot more physically because you're riding the bike the whole time with the
Yeah, when you're
class.
coaching, you're actually doing
So
it still, but yeah.
so if you think about it, like Soul Cycle spin instructors, they're making over $200 a class probably, so they can make a career out of it. In Pittsburgh, teaching spin, $25 a class, maybe more at some of the bigger
Tell me
studios.
what's Soul Cycle?
So that's a kind of a premier boutique spin brand. It's big. We don't have one in Pittsburgh, but they're in LA, New York, DC. So it's kind of prime time. Like if you're a fitness instructor and you're at Soul Cycle, like you made it.
That's your high. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's your high
Okay.
end.
So that's like
The
the
strive.
That's the high
that's the
end.
Jaguars of
That's
Yeah.
what you would have been striving for if
Yeah.
you just did solely spin.
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
your way up the cycle instructor
Yeah. Yeah.
world. Okay.
But I guess the point of that is like, yes, it's fun. It's more of you do it because you love it. You can't make a career or you can't really make a lot of money teaching spin because of the physical burden. So you're riding
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
bike. So you can't do more than 2 or 3 classes a day. Whereas F45, if I really wanted to, I could coach all the classes
Coach all
in
of
the
them.
day.
Yeah.
I mean, mentally that would be exhausting, but physically you could do it. So I kind of like thought about just some of the ins and outs of like, well, what's sustainable? Like, what do I really enjoy? And I loved F45. And honestly, the guy that ran it, shout out Trip, he's still a mentor. I love him.
Shout out Trip.
Shout out Trip. But I will say, like,
Also, that's a great
he
nickname.
was such a bro that I was like, okay, if this guy can like run this studio and make it successful, and like he did no marketing, it was just like, hey, show up.
Maybe we shouldn't shout out Trip because you suck at marketing,
but,
bro.
No, but I mean, he's opened like 20 F45 since then. Like it's wild. Like, and to me, he was such a cool guy. Like he is such a cool guy, and like that's what attracted people to it. Was like,
No
okay,
offense,
this
Trip.
is-
I just picture this big old meathead dude now.
no,
I have like 40
Just,
pictures. of
what
Trip
up,
right
bro?
now.
Yeah, no, I'll show you. But I was like, okay, if this bro can do it, like I can totally do this.
Got it. So now you're home, right?
Yeah.
And you're back to like
Yeah, and I'm
your
like
full
corporate,
time.
like this sucks, like it's not what I wanted to do. So basically I thought about it for months and I tried all the other gyms in the area, not to name, but I was like, nothing compares to F45. Like physically, it's something you can do every day. As you get older too, you can just modify things. It alternates between strength and cardio. So if like you're crushed from a cardio day, guess what? You don't have to breathe as heavy the next day. You're lifting weights. It's a different focus. So I was like, okay, this is something that I really believe in and I think is better for the body over time. So that's kind of why I landed on that. And plus I saw from the ground up, not in the weeds, but a 45 studio
Yeah, how to do
opening
it.
and becoming successful. Just like, okay, I have a little bit of an insight into this.
Yeah.
And here, though, in Pittsburgh, no one knew what F45 was. So that was kind of another thing I had to think about was like, oh, like
Yeah.
everyone's gonna be like, what is this
So
T30?
when you
Like,
moved to Pittsburgh, were you thinking like, was it in your head now, maybe I could do it, or did it come once you saw a bunch of gyms that weren't going to work for you?
yes, that.
Yeah.
So I more so opened it because I love to work out at it. And like I wanted to get out of corporate. So I did it from like it sounds selfish, but like at first I was like, I want to do this for me. But then I was like, think of I thought about DC and I'm like, I was new to the area. I didn't know anybody. I met all my friends from F45. I said, how cool would that be? Like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is becoming more of that space where like young people are moving somewhere you want to be. Like, how cool would that be if I was able to like facilitate that and like give people a place where they felt like they were able to make friends, like, and they didn't have to go to the bar to do that or like, I don't know, join a league. Like
Yeah.
they were able to just do their daily routine and they come out, you know, feeling like part of a team or that they made a friend that day. So then I was like, okay, this is going to work because, you know, Pittsburgh's getting there and I love it, but I know my friends will all love it. Like I know that, you know, the demographic will start young, but people will start to invite other people and it'll
Yeah. I
go
mean, the
from
thing
there.
is too that I really like about like you can do it at any age. My old self is
Yeah.
going there every day, and
Yeah.
I'm not competing with the
Yeah. You got 21-year-olds
you
in
know,
there. You
some of the
got
younger folks that
61-year-olds
crush
in
it,
there.
but
Well,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
will say, I mean, so whenever we went to Nashville, TJ, we did a class with TJ on the phone,
Okay, you did the app.
which is
Yeah, we
so
did get you to do that with us the one
Yeah.
day. You
yeah.
didn't
So
come the next day.
I did not come the next day. I was like, screw that.
Yeah. I was sore.
Well, there was like 40 people in there. I actually was really sore. My
Yeah.
legs were sore. They were
Yeah.
sore from the day before that. I was
Yeah.
like, crap.
Yeah.
But it was super cool that we can do that in Nashville too,
Mhm.
just through that like program, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome.
You could take it with you.
Yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't over. Like you can do that at any age for sure. Like you could have dialed
Yeah.
it
And you
down. I
could,
could have did half of it and
yeah.
still got like a
Yeah.
great workout in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
it
can
was
go
cool.
at your own pace with the
Yeah.
workout.
And for those listening that might not know, like what the premise of F45 is there's TV screens actually up at the front of the room that are doing the move or that exercise. We call them the station for that day. So the coaches can really focus on kind of going around the room and helping with modifications, motivation. So that workout's up on the screen. And we say that that up on screen is kind of the middle ground. So we can always make it harder. We can always make it easier. And that's the job of the coaches to actually deliver what is shown up on the screen. And then the workout itself alternates between cardio and strength training each day.
Hold on. Take a step back.
Yeah.
I'm taking back over.
I'm
I
sorry.
love this, but I want to get into this next because I really want to understand, right?
Yes.
Because
How I
I
did
want to
this.
I want to get back to, right? You're here, you're trying out every
Yeah.
gym, you have this idea, and months go by
Yeah,
where you're
months go
like,
by.
you know, just like everyone, right? We're thinking about it and it cripples us,
Yeah.
right? And so then what makes you make the move? And to your point, no one's ever heard of F45 at this point in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
give me more into that.
Okay. So I signed the deal in May 2019. So with that said, I moved back in 2018, right? So a couple months go by. And I'm thinking about what to do. And really, I just kind of took a leap. Like I wish I could say that I like estimated what the HVAC costs would be or like this would be and was like, I can do this.
How did you decide where you were going to go?
Again, just looking on loopnet.com. Like honestly, I did some research on like the different neighborhoods. Originally I wanted like the South Hills or East Liberty. Like, I don't know, I kind of looked everywhere and wherever I found the deal with the right size space, like that's where I went. Like this at the strip at the time, there was one other gym. And it was like a Pilates jump trampoline studio. So I was like, okay, like this could be cool. Like it's starting to get developed. And this was again 2019. So none of the some of the apartments were there, but it's just starting to come on the map, right? So I went for it. I looked at Mount Washington even. Like I kind of
Mhm.
just looked everywhere and tried to find a space that I could afford and that was the right size. So F45 does give you some guidance of like, okay, it has to be this size.
So you had connected with F45 or whatever, however. I
Yeah.
mean, because they were big. They weren't in Pittsburgh, but they were a pretty big company.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
they were
big
founded in
brand.
Australia,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so they were in DC, obviously, which means I'm sure they were in New York and
Yeah.
LA and the bigger cities at
Yeah.
that point.
In the bigger cities. And what really got me to like sign the deal, and signing the deal means basically I bought the name F45. So because I had that name now, I could go put it on my studio and it would be recognized, right? Pittsburgh, not so much brand recognition yet, but eventually it would be as F45 grew. They also gave me help with like marketing materials. Again, the layout of the studio, they all look the same in whatever country or country, state, location you go to. So they gave me some of the specs for that too.
They give you I'm sure you have to buy it, but
And
they
the
have,
equipment. So I buy the equipment from them too. And then they program all the workouts. So that was another like no brainer. Like, wow, this is amazing. They're writing the
yeah,
workouts.
takes a lot off. That's a
Yeah,
big part of it,
that's a
especially,
huge
yeah.
part. Like coming from, writing spin workouts and picking the music and doing all that. And I know personal training, like more than half the gig is writing the programs. So I think being plug and play was super cool. And again, that brand recognition helps with sales, but I knew it wouldn't help me that much.
Yeah,
But
right,
it
because
does
'cause they're
in the
new to
grand
Pittsburgh.
scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so the sales rep I'm working with at F45, he wants me to buy this, right? He gives me an end date. He's like, you have till this date and then the deal's going to change. I waited till that day at like midnight to sign the deal. I was like,
Nice.
I don't
Just
know. I
selling
don't know.
short.
I was so scared. And my parents were like, like, we believe in you. And I was like, I know this will work.
Ah, so the parents were supporting?
Very
That's
supportive
awesome.
of this. And I knew I had to make it work because my life savings, again, not so much living in DC, working, went towards this, like
6
life
bottles of Jack
savings.
Wins we can't buy anymore. We gotta put
Yeah,
it
my
towards the
babysitting money from grade school went towards this. My parents put up a second property as collateral for this loan.
Wow.
So I was like,
Nice.
I have to make this work. But I
Wow.
also convinced them that it would. Um, so what do you know? Fast forward, I'm trying to get the studio open. Not to mention I'm using Google to like negotiate with landlords, review a lease.
So they required probably a bunch of money down for the equipment and everything else, right, when you
Yeah.
signed?
Yep. So I took out a loan to do that stuff. But again, they give the equipment, they give kind of
Yeah.
a lot of the
I just was
blueprint.
setting you up there for the kill of what you were about to say because I knew what was coming.
What was I going to say?
COVID.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
So you just
but
signed this agreement, put out a bunch of money,
and then COVID.
do all this stuff, and then
But there was a lot before COVID. Like I won't go into everything, but what we talked about of like finding the space. Like I'm not a real estate. I don't know. I didn't have the money to hire someone either. So, I have family friends obviously that work in the space. So I was like, hey, what can you tell me about this? What are some like lease negotiating points that I should look for?
you get a 60-page lease. It's like, what the hell am I looking at, right?
Yeah. Like, so I was really lucky with a lot of my family friends that were able to kind of help out and give me some guidance. But Google, was my best friend. But okay, so I find a space, right? I hire a contractor who is a friend of my dad. Because again, I don't know how to do that. Like, so I hire this contractor, he builds it out to the specs that I need. I'm in there checking it out all the time, but yet I'm still working my other job. I'm trying to hire.
And so
'cause,
you're
like,
full-time working from home for
yes.
the job out of DC
Yeah.
still. Yep. Okay.
And like, who's going to work at this studio, right? So I had to kind of recruit and hire and look around and, join him. But I met him early on and it was just him and I. And I had no money to pay him because we weren't open yet. But I was like, I need someone,
Some help
who's
kind
going to
of
help.
building this out and yeah.
Yeah. So he helped through the build out process, like doing sales and stuff. And then what do you know? COVID hits. And again, I was lucky because since the build out wasn't done yet, I wasn't paying rent. So my landlords were very kind in the sense that I didn't have to pay rent during COVID because I wasn't open, the build out wasn't done. So I wasn't losing any money, but I wasn't making any money. And F45 was also generous that they froze any royalty payments. So they had a clock ticking on me saying like, you
That was
start
gonna be my
owing
question.
a
Yeah.
monthly fee at this month marker, right? So they froze that for me, which was nice. But it just, again, the momentum was lost.
Yeah.
Right. So I was doing pre-sales and I was
Did
like,
you start with market? So you did pre-sale. You were starting to try to pre-sell.
yeah. And that was me just calling up people, following people on Instagram. Like, it was, again, just a one-man show.
And you
until
you
Jordan came
get
on.
to set prices and all that. So when you're doing this pre-sale, it's like, look, trying to just find ways to
Yeah.
get,
Yeah. Like I Googled other gyms in the area and try to figure out kind of where I should sit price wise. F45 gives you a little bit of guidance on that, but everything's specific to the market.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you're building a brand new brand essentially here locally in Pittsburgh, and
yeah.
Is that how F45 makes their money? Do they just do flat fee rent or do they
Yep.
do it
So
based
they
off?
make the money when you sign a deal with them. So there's an initial franchise fee,
Yep.
and then they make some sort of markup on the equipment. Like they make the money from the markup on the equipment, and then they make money from a monthly royalty payment. So why I signed the deal when I did was
the royalty
because-
payment is is not dependent on sales in any.
And that's why I signed the deal when I did, because my royalty payment is not dependent on sales. So they were changing it to a model where it was X amount of dollars or percentage of sales, depending on what was greater.
And
And
you
I
wanted
knew,
confidence in your own sales. Got
yes.
it.
And I was like,
Yeah.
well, if I make this much, like, I don't want to have to pay them more because of that. So I was like, I better just do this now, because obviously it's always going to be in the back of my mind of like, I never opened that gym. Like, what would have happened?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that kind of like nudged me to do it. But anyway, COVID was actually, I mean, it sucked, but it was a really, I don't want to even call it a blessing because it wasn't, but we capitalized on COVID because it was extra time to pre-sale, to build a community. The playing field was level now, right? Like there was open gyms,
Yep.
but they couldn't run classes inside. No one could. So I was like, okay, we're open for business.
Mm-hmm.
So F45 came up with this really cool technology, kind of like on the app,
Yep.
where you could basically zoom out a workout, and us as the coaches could get on the Zoom and coach the workout, and it would be up on screen, their computer screen. So we didn't have to even have a physical location. I was like, F45, okay, thank you for giving us this. Like, we're ready to go. It was an even playing field. I wasn't, again, losing any money. I was paying the two coaches and myself that I had to run these virtual classes. But people were paying for them. So like we started making money before I had to pay rent, before I had to pay royalty
Yeah.
fees. And again, it wasn't significant. Like we probably charged like $20 a week or something like that, but it's still enough.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, the first Zoom class, we might have had 2 people on it who were like friends,
Yeah.
but then they brought their friends, and then they brought their friends. And eventually we would have like 30 people on a Zoom class. And it was 1 class a day. We ended up having like 4 classes a day on Zoom. And then when it got nice outside, so COVID was March, right? So that's when we started doing these virtual workouts. Then we got to go outside.
Yeah.
So we're outside in like June, July with, 100 people maybe would come to these workouts, which was amazing.
That's awesome.
And I was like, this is cool. Like we already have this community ready to go, so that when we went into the studio, like everyone knew each other. They were bringing their friends.
Were you like mindset wise, were you nervous, like, or worried,
yeah.
like what's going to happen when we
Oh, yeah.
actually go into the studio now?
Oh yeah. I was so nervous. And that's why I kept that. I mean, I was going to keep my full-time job as long as I could, or until I got fired, basically. But I was like, I'm good. Like, and I was making a good bit of money that by this time. So I was like, I can pay the rent with my salary if I need to, or I can pay this, I can pay that. And I didn't pay myself from F45. So again, yeah, I was very, very nervous, but I had this
Yeah,
other
well, it's just
job.
helpful, right? You weren't dependent on the F45
Right.
sales coming in
Yes.
while you were building it to support your lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was able to like pay my team, obviously. And at the time it was Jordan and one other girl, Alyssa, who she has since moved, but we were the 3 that were running these classes. And when we went into the studio, we had like one other coach. But it was us coaching all of the classes because again, I didn't have enough money to like bring on a full staff yet
Mhm.
but
So you were ghost working at this point while you were running. You were wiggling the mouse on the side over here while you're
a
running
little bit.
classes.
I mean, or I was, you don't see me much at 5:30 a.m. anymore, or I was at 5:30 a.m. I logged on to my work at 9:30, after I taught the first 3
Mhm.
classes of the morning. And then I logged on after, or I went to the gym after. So, but yeah, I was really nervous during COVID, and also even coming out of COVID, F45 changed its programming to be more cautious, I guess, and conscious of the people that were really still worried about it. Where instead of rotating stations, and I don't know if you joined this early, but we stayed in a box. We basically made like a masking tape box, and you just stayed in your station and had a couple pieces of
Ah,
equipment around you. So you didn't rotate and touch all of the equipment.
smart.
But when that happened, I was like, I didn't sign up for this shit. Like, this isn't the
Yeah,
F45
Yeah,
workout
that you
that I
want.
know
Yeah,
and
every
love. Like,
move.
I
Yeah.
was like, is this going to work? Like, are people going to like this? Like, but it worked. And, a year later, we were back to rotating and just continuing to grow. And at that time, we had a lot of competitors coming into the strip, but I think we had such a core group of community that was
Yeah,
already
so
built.
let's dive into that for a second,
Yeah.
right? Because here we are today, and it's extremely successful, right? CityLife is a big part of it, right? We
Yeah.
love it, and we really push all of our employees to join and be a part of it. How have you created that success, right? From a community standpoint, because it is big. It's a big community, right? Like how did you have the idea and the thought process to create that community and really think about it that way as opposed to just another gym?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I think the main part for me was I wanted it to be inclusive of everybody. So there's a lot of these gyms where like all of their promotions or all of their instructors, and I'm not ripping on them, but are like in sports bras and all over their Instagram. It's more about like the coach and they just want to look good on social media. And for me personally, like I'd be intimidated to go into that gym and I'm in shape, you know what I mean? So I think that's like a really, fitness is sensitive, especially when you're doing group fitness with other people around you and, you feel like you're being watched or judged. And so what I did when I was hiring is I tried to find really inclusive people that, obviously were passionate about fitness, but weren't about themselves. Like they were truly about they cared about coaching and improving someone's life and making a difference.
Love it.
Like it wasn't about their ego or like, hey, I'm a coach here, I'm a personal trainer.
Hmm.
So the people that would, DM me being like, hey, I want a job, I looked at their Instagram and I'd be like, I don't
Wow.
know if you're
Yeah.
a good fit, even if you have 10,000 followers, like your vibe, I want my mom to feel comfortable in there. Like if my grandma wanted to come to class, like I would want her to feel comfortable in there. So I think
Wow.
that's what I tried to do from a staffing standpoint was make it relatable, everyday people that were kind, compassionate, teachable, but like cared about what they were doing. And a lot of my coaches, most of them, almost all of them, um, this is a side hustle for them. They have a full-time gig,
Hmm.
so it is a passion project. They do it because they really love it and they love that environment. So I think it all stems from the people that I brought in. Like they're the first ones fist bumping, high five, like how was your day? What are you up to? Introduce yourself to so and so, or did you know that this person also lives in South Side? Like so I think it starts with that because people are weird. Like they don't like to just talk to people. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm, like, standing next to someone, I'm just so inclined to be like, "Hey, what's up?" But, people just don't, like
Yeah.
and I found that from going into other fitness classes too, like, no one talks to each other. Like, I could go into a studio and the coach doesn't even say hi to me. It's just like, "Okay, it's start time, let's go. Alright, bye."
That's such a good point, right? And
Um
and being there every day, it is, all even some of your coaches are coaches at other gyms or have other
Yeah,
gyms or
yeah.
or fitness trainers other places, but the community they create, right, is absolutely right. They're all welcoming and it's a different vibe compared to not the to your point, right? Coming in and being intimidated by this amazing in shape not that they're not in shape. Most
Right,
of them
right,
are
right,
in
right.
shape
Yeah, they
naturally,
are.
right? But
Yeah, but they're not about themselves
yeah.
kinda thing. Um So I don't know. So that was a big thing for me was like I wanted everyone to feel safe or like a safe place, somewhere that the motto, team training, life changing, like somewhere you can truly come in wherever you're at and leave feeling part of a team. Like we have people that, come in and they're like, "Oh, I haven't worked out since pre-COVID." And they're working out next to an ex-college athlete, like, and they both can do the workout.
Hmm.
And like that's what's super cool. And they respect each other. Another thing that F45 kind of does is like no mirrors. Like we don't want you to look at yourself. Like the coaches will help you if your form's way off, but like we don't want you to look at other people or look at yourselves. Like just focus on what you're doing and the exercise that's in front of you. So it kind of is like the come as you are, and
So
we'll make you a
why
friend.
don't you quickly walk us through what it so for every listener that's out there right now, maybe they're part of another gym or haven't heard of F45. Like what does F45 look like if they were to come join?
Yeah, so if they were coming in, they're graded by name. Like we know you're coming in and you're new. At the front, we'll give them a brief tour, kind of show them around. We'll most likely partner them off right there or introduce them to an OG member or someone that, knows the ropes so that they don't feel lost or intimidated. And then when class starts, we'll have two coaches, personal trainers, give them a rundown of the programming that day. So how many different stations. And that's another cool part about F45 is it's different every time you come in. So it's hard to get bored in there versus, other studios that it's the same workout or the same number of stations. So there'll be different programming every time you come in, but you'll know that you're either getting cardio based exercises or strength. We don't have any treadmills, but we do use rowers, bikes, ski ergs, as well as just regular kind of functional moves to get your heart rate up on a cardio day. And then strength day, it's, all focused on lifting barbells, kettlebells, dumbbells. We got pull up bars back there. Um,
Body weight for people that are weak like
Body
me.
weight. And then you're
Is
rotating around the rooms to each of those different stations. And you are never at a station longer than a minute. So that's often a selling point that I'll tell people is like, you're not there longer a minute. So if you think you can't do something, it is 1 minute of your life, and then you'll get a little breather, and then you're on to the next minute. So it's kind of like chipping away piece by piece at that 45-minute day or class. And I think that's the other piece is it's 45 minutes and it's super efficient. So like if you want to get back home to your kids, I'll get you back home to your kids after 45 minutes. You don't need to spend an hour and a half at LA Fitness walking around, figuring out what to do. So that's a key piece. Functional, so for everyday life, and then 45 minutes, so it's efficient, so you can get back to your everyday life.
Yeah. No, I
So
think 45 minutes, if you're constantly moving, I think a lot of wasted time at gyms is
yeah,
walking station to station. And somebody might be at a station that you want to
yeah,
be at. So there goes your whole workout plan. Now somebody's there. Now I'm walking around trying to figure out what I want to do.
yeah.
So no, that's a great point. Whenever you say strength and what it was a
Cardio.
cardio days, like is it all day? All the classes are all strength. Like so
Mhm.
every Monday call it all strength or vice versa, or do you have it rotating by hour,
Yep.
like
So
by class? I guess.
yeah, that's a good question. So every day, so we have run about 8 to 9 classes a day.
Okay,
So it's the same class every day. So
got it.
what the morning people get is also what the night people get.
Okay,
So then the next day, same thing. So you have 8 chances to kind of get that workout in.
okay,
So
Yeah.
it's
So
the
they
same.
set up the room, right, Brian? So they set up the room, call it, maybe, well, I wasn't there yesterday, but Wednesday was, I'm just making up at this point because I was actually out of
9
town
stations.
Wednesday. 9 stations. You might have 3 sets of 30 seconds with a 10-second rest of this exercise, and you move to the next one. Or another setup might be 12 stations, 3 pods of 4, where you work through your pod, where it's like maybe 40 seconds on, 20-second break, you move to the next station, your pod,
got it.
and you move through those 4 stations or the little pod, right? So then you get in 12 total 40-second workouts in
Yep.
that. And then you take a 1-minute break, move to the next pod, and roll through that. And so every day it's totally different. And they demo at the beginning. And the coolest thing that you mentioned is every day is totally different muscles. Like even Thursday this week, Thursday next week is totally different exercises, right? Because Wednesdays, for instance, are always cardio day, right? So, Wednesdays is going to be a bigger cardio day,
Yep.
right? But it's always totally different cardio stuff. The reason that I love it the most is because like there's a lot of things I can't do, right? So I have what's called cardiac malformation in my brain. My heart rate can't go above 160. And so there's certain adjustments that I have to make, and it's totally fine, right? That I can do certain adjustments or not go as hard on certain exercises on a cardio day, for instance, because quickly it jumps up when you're doing all cardio.
Yep.
Right. And so you can kind of modify it, and it's not like it's a big deal to modify, right? Like, or if you're just spinning for 60 minutes at a spin class, it's like, oh, what the hell do I do if I can't spin?
Yeah.
Right. So it's fascinating in that standpoint. And the other big thing is you don't have to think about it, right? So you go to LA Fitness or you go to all these other gyms, and you really got to think about what you're going to do. For me, how much I think, and my brain don't ever shut off, right? For me, it's amazing because I never ever have to think about exercising ever. I just got to go and show up, and I do it at 5:30 in the morning because it's the only time of day I can. And so boom, I'm in at 5:30. I'm out by 6:15 every day, and I get a killer workout in, and my heart rate goes up. I get my sweat in, and I'm done. And I don't ever have to think about anything because it's all lined up for me right then and there. So it's pretty sweet.
No,
I
that's
love
why.
that you used all the lingo, the pods, station.
I'm
Yeah.
learning. I'm
Yeah.
learning it
You're a
all.
regular.
I am a regular.
Yeah.
That's this year. I'm
Yeah.
down 12 pounds thanks to you
There we go.
and being the regular. That last year I would miss some days and
Yeah.
get yelled at a
Yeah.
lot, but
But that's such a good point. Like just all you have to do is really show up. The programming is done. We hit upper body, we hit lower body, full body, core, and that cardio piece. So, um, we do the
so
rest.
are you still working full time or?
Not anymore.
Wow.
So
Okay.
as of August, as of August, I was able to exit the corporate world. And it's funny, I think back whenever I was first starting to work out at that F45 in DC, I told the coaches there, I was like, I'm leaving corporate America by I'm 30. Like, I just hate it, blah, blah, blah. So 31, I was able to leave. So I was a year late,
Congrats.
but I blame that on COVID. But I did, like, it just feels good to say like that I left and I did it, and I'm, making a career now out of what I love. So it all ended up working out, knock on wood. So now I'm kind of just focusing on the next thing and how to scale the business. So
Okay. So
yeah.
focusing on scaling next. I love that. What,
Yeah.
right? Maybe what's the best? So, incredible journey. Obviously, if you're listening to this, do yourself a favor and join F45. I'd imagine, especially, doing all of that and getting successful through COVID, right? Bringing a brand into a new location, a brand new city, and opening it up, obviously incredibly tough. Doing all that. So just quitting in August, did you quit or did you get,
I quit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you got
Yeah, if I got fired.
ghosted
No,
long,
I got actually like begged to stay.
yeah.
And I never tried to hide that I had this F45 gym, but they didn't know. So I was kind of waiting for the
I
day.
never tried to hide it, but
I
they
was
didn't know.
processing that in my
Yeah,
head.
I mean, I
Right.
didn't hide it.
I'm like, well,
And I was at every meeting, I was logged on at the times that I had to, and I hustled a lot. Especially at the beginning, I was at all the 5:30 a.m. classes, and then after work, I'd go do my workout and, socialize with the night crew. So,
I do
uh,
I do think, maybe you can spend a minute on this too, right? I don't want to overlook this. I'm a huge believer in team and in community and atmosphere, and it's how we've built City Life from day one. It was, hey, we've got to find the right people, and clearly to be able to run a gym. A lot of times you see gym owners and they're there the entire time. They're the one running it. They're the face. They're literally everything. And quite frankly, from the time that I've joined, right, I don't see
see
you
that
often
much.
really there ever. And I know a lot of your trainers very well. Like building that team, like how did you have the wherewithal early on, right? Obviously you had a job, so you kind of a little bit of had to, but how did you have the wherewithal and the knowledge to say, look, I need to make sure that I get the right trainers and I get them early and I have them here and helping me build this thing?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And something I thought about when I was kind of preparing for this was like, it's a scale for me, time or money. So at first I was like, I need as much money as I can make. So I was there all the time doing everything, right? And then I was like, I need my time back. Like my personal relationships are suffering. I'm sacrificing a lot of things that I should be doing with my family or, you know, just relationships. So time was like a big thing. So I was like, I now feel comfortable that I need to delegate some of this stuff and this is not going to be sustainable, especially if I want to scale the business, right? So, finding that team and putting the right people in place, a lot of it is just like a Google Doc process for how to do certain things or how to open or how to greet a new member. And it was just instilling that in my coaches. And I really think that I'm still working on this, but it's my baby, right? So, like, no one will clean the bathroom like I do, or no one will pick up that piece of dust on the floor like I will. Like, they come in and they coach and they truly give it all. But I'm all about the details, and I'm trying to still get them to do that a little bit.
Hmm.
Of like, okay, there's a piece of toilet paper on the floor, or
Hey,
just like
Courtney, we
little
need to be
things.
we need to be picking dust up with our
Yeah, like
fingers
it's
off this.
little things like that. Like, so I need to learn to step back, but I've gotten better at that because I have so much trust in the people that I've put in place. And the people, like a lot of the coaches, were seasoned coaches. So there wasn't much training I had to do, which I was lucky in that sense. But those that did just kind of come up through F45 and just being members and became coaches, like they're very into the details because they've been on the other side of it and they've seen the dust or they've seen, the toilet paper roll empty. So I think, just making sure that the coaches have as much care of the place and, you know, I guess want to see it thrive as much as I do. Like it is something that I'm trying to instill and something that I'm hoping will help me to scale. But finding the right people, I have to say, like I've been lucky
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I
to
mean,
have
like I
that
said,
team.
I really believe that you have, right? It's such a, and to your point, right? And when you show up and everyone's in the lobby and there's green and it's always 5:30. I walk in at 5:20 in the morning every day and I don't like working out. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of working out. That's not me.
Yeah.
There's 8 people there. Everyone's like, hey, hi. Everyone's all happy. I'm like, oh, you shut up. And I like whatever. But like
Yeah.
you've created that environment and it's hard to find. And to the point, like I like the workout because it is so different. I don't have to think. So I've always changed to say I'm always going to be going to gyms for the rest of my
Yeah.
life. But like if you don't have that, like I'm finding the next one and I'm going to go
Yeah.
there, right? And
Yeah.
members will. So it's so important to have all of that. It's
Right.
huge.
Right. Like the workout's obviously great. It's a great product, but even more so, I think we're in the service industry. Like we want to deliver that experience or that great service to our members so that they continue to choose F45 versus the next gym down the street.
Yeah.
And we have a great group of members too who, you know, are really supportive and bring their friends and want to promote it and share it. So I think like the energy just attracts other good energy in a way.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's
not
kind of,
only that, it's a community, right? You get like F45 is always doing things outside. You're always
yeah, we
partnering with
try to
other
do, happy
other
hour.
places, happy hours. I think this morning they announced there's a happy hour next
Yeah,
Friday for
yeah.
St. Patrick's Day. So always doing fun stuff. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah. So hopefully, I don't, I have to think about that one.
Yeah.
So I'd like to continue to scale the F45 business and see where that takes me. I'd like to have, you know, by then I'll be married and hopefully have a family. And then just continuing to stay healthy and fit, is the plan. But
That's
I don't know,
awesome.
not going back to corporate America, hopefully.
Yeah. Never. Once you're gone, right? I always say become unemployable.
Yeah.
That's the goal. That way
Right.
you can't, even if you had to.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you can give everybody listening today on their entrepreneurial journey or business journey, career journey?
Okay. So I was asked this once a few years ago when I first opened the studio, and I said, always plan for more. And I still kind of agree with that. Like, always hire more than you think. Be able to, like, everything's going to cost more than you think it is. You're going to need more space than you think. It's going to be more time, more work than you think. So I think don't underestimate how difficult it is. Plan that it's going to be harder than what you think. And then, so that's still kind of stayed the same. But the second is priorities. So starting this business, like my priority was F45. Like that came first over everything. Everyone knew it. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. But now that I've gotten it successful and off the ground, like F45 is still a huge part of my life. But my priorities have shifted a little bit towards kind of what I touched on, like my time, my personal life. Like I want that time back now so I can hire out and put the people in place, you know, to be there for me and help to run the business so that my priorities can equal out a little bit. And I'm not just, you know, solely focused on F45. So I think just making sure that your priorities are aligned and that they continue to shift, you know, as your business grows. So those are probably the two things I would say. And that's something that more recently I've learned now that I'm at the point of where I am 2.5 years in. So
Yeah, I love that. Where can we where can we find you if we want to connect personally, or how do we become a member if we're interested in joining the
yeah,
F45?
so
Because if we're listening to this and we're not, we're just dummies. So
yeah. Yeah. So definitely come try us out. We have a 7-day trial for $14, no strings attached. Our Instagram is F45 Training Pittsburgh Strip. And then my personal Instagram, which I'm not on so much, more so on the business side, but is Kathryn King. So come try us out. We're right in the strip on Penn Avenue. If you haven't gotten a call from me yet, I'm surprised, but I'll probably have to come find you and get you in the gym. So
any last words over there,
No,
BK?
everything's great. It's making me want to go work out.
If you
I love it.
can convince Brian to join F45 and not do his own thing, or we're on to something here.
So when she said, I need one more for the 300th member, I'm like, oh,
I
I was
know,
like, going
right?
to do that to me. I was like,
Yeah.
she must
It's
be,
you,
she
Brian.
must have had that planned.
It's you. It's you.
Yeah, so
We'll get you in.
yeah, we did though, because we're landing her 300th member here
Yep.
Woohoo.
right when we get off of when we finish. So
Yeah. Love
uh,
it.
appreciate you all
Thanks,
listening.
guys.
Until next time on City Life Uncensored. Make sure you get down to F45. If you're not, get working on your health, wealth, and being. Let's go.